Imagine coming home at 2 a.m. and finding your wife giggling with a hotel keycard slipping from her purse. Not yours, not hers, someone else's. Derek didn't shout. He picked it up, placed it back gently, and poured himself water like nothing happened. That was the moment he stopped being a husband and became an architect of consequence. While she slept off her whiskey, he was already building a plan. Quiet, precise, devastating. By the time she realized what she lost, she walked into HR with shaking hands and left with her reputation in ashes. You want to know how he did it? Keep watching. The house smelled like fresh cedar and rain that Friday evening, the kind of scent that usually meant comfort for Derek Lawson after a 12-hour shift overseeing concrete pour schedules and liability inspections. He had just kicked off his steel-toe boots when he heard heels clicking across the hardwood, not the usual flats Natalie wore home from the office. These sounded sharper, deliberate, almost like punctuation marks tapping out a sentence he had not agreed to read. Natalie stood by the living room mirror, adjusting the thin gold necklace he bought for their 5th anniversary. Her dress was new, black, sleeveless, hugging the curve of her waist. Not flashy, not obscene, but different. Different in the way code behaves strangely after one unauthorized patch. Subtle, but undeniable, and always for a reason. Derek watched from the kitchen doorway, one shoulder leaning against the frame. He did not whistle, did not compliment, did not ask where she was going. Not yet. In construction, bad foundations do not collapse in one moment. They crack quietly first. He knew silence forces truth more than interrogation. "You look dressed up," he said, voice steady, almost neutral. Natalie smiled without turning fully toward him. That half smile, polite, distant, the kind people wear with colleagues, not husbands. "It is just a drink. The team is going out. Alex organized it." Her tone light, casual, as if the name meant nothing. Alex. Derek had heard it before, too often recently. In emails she mentioned. In late calls she muted. In jokes she laughed at harder than necessary. The new project supervisor, MBA, slick. The type who brought artisan coffee for everyone and remembered birthdays. Harmless, until harmless becomes familiarity. Derek wiped his hands on a towel, slow, thinking. He had spent 4 years in the National Guard. He recognized when a situation needed escalation control. The first rule of defense: never show panic. The enemy reads it like blood in water. "What time are you back?" he asked. She grabbed her purse, red lipstick already set, hair pinned with more care than for their last date night. "Not late, maybe 10. It is just a drink with coworkers. You worry too much." 10 o'clock. He knew she would not be back by 10. Something cold and surgical tightened in his chest. Not jealousy, not anger, but awareness. The same feeling he got when inspecting load-bearing beams and spotting a hairline fracture no one else saw. A feeling that said monitor the integrity, because collapse is possible. He stepped closer, enough for her to meet his eyes in the mirror. "Natalie," he said quietly, "look at me." She hesitated. Just half a second, but half a second is enough to map a fault line. She turned. "You know I love you," he continued, voice controlled, almost too calm. "But I need you to hear this clearly. If you walk out tonight, you might not come back to the same marriage." The air thickened. Not raised voices, not accusations, just stillness, the kind that precedes a storm cell forming inland. Natalie blinked, taken aback. "Derek, it is not like that. It is only a drink. You are being dramatic." Maybe he was, maybe he was not. He remembered military briefings, the ones where they said the threat was low, until one soldier misread terrain and everything changed. He remembered cybersecurity frameworks from a side course, how breaches rarely started with attacks, but with trust exploited. This was not about a drink. This was about permission. She leaned in, kissed his cheek, light as dust. "I will be home soon. Promise." The word promise sounded like a code with no checksum. Easy to break without trace. Derek watched her step into the night, porch light casting long shadows across the driveway. The same driveway he resurfaced by hand last summer. She pulled out, taillights glowing red like a recording indicator. The house fell silent. Refrigerator hum. A dog barking down the street. Derek stood alone in the doorway, hand on the frame where her perfume still lingered. Expensive, citrus, sharper than before. He exhaled once, slow. He knew something tonight would break. Not loudly, quietly, like steel under stress. And when it broke, he would not patch it. He would rebuild from the ruins, but not for her. Because sometimes the worst betrayal is not the act itself, but choosing to ignore the warning before it happens. He turned off the porch light. Then the real story began. Before warnings, before late nights and strange laughter through a locked phone, there was a beginning. Derek met Natalie Lawson in the most ordinary way, which is how tragedies like this often start. No thunder, no red flags, just a grocery store aisle in Brainerd, Minnesota, 6 winters ago. She was reaching for the same box of cinnamon oatmeal he liked, mittens dangling from her wrist, cheeks flushed red from cold. He made a quiet joke about supply chain shortages. She laughed louder than expected, and in that laugh, Derek felt something uncomplicated, warm, human. Back then, Natalie was still the woman who packed lunches with handwritten notes, who fell asleep with her head on his chest while they watched meteorology forecasts before bed. They lived in a modest 2-bedroom house near Gull Lake, the kind with white siding and a backyard big enough for summer barbecues. Derek took pride in that home. He installed the deck himself, reinforced every joist like a man reinforcing the future he believed in. Natalie worked as an administrative assistant back then. Nothing high stress, nothing that required extra hours. Derek liked that. He pictured a family there, maybe a baby room painted soft green, maybe a dog that followed him around while he fixed gutters. They were simple dreams, the kind that build slowly and die quietly when no one notices. Change never arrives with a siren. It walks in wearing new shoes. It started when Natalie accepted a position at a tech firm in Minneapolis. A 45-minute commute, but better pay, better title, office coordinator. She came home excited, full of talk about new systems, cross-department management, even the company gym with glass walls overlooking downtown. Derek was proud. He kissed her forehead and told her she deserved it. But the job demanded more. Late trainings, client dinners, project rollouts. Suddenly, Natalie's phone buzzed during dinner. "Just work," she would say, sliding it face down but never out of reach. Derek remembered his cybersecurity elective, how the first step in breach prevention was maintaining clear lines of access. Things felt different when access changed. Then there was the perfume. Light, expensive, layered with vanilla and sandalwood, not the fresh floral she used to prefer. Derek noticed it the way a soldier notices an unfamiliar sound in friendly territory, not hostile, but wrong. She started waking earlier, straightening her hair with more care, outfits sharper, more tailored. Derek believed growth was good. People change. But change without transparency feels like locked encryption, something you do not have the key for. He worked long days on site, managing subcontractors, calculating bid margins, staring down blueprints until lines blurred. Construction teaches patience. Structures fail only when stress exceeds design. He assumed their marriage was built for load. That foundation held until the new name entered the conversation. Alex Miller. It slipped in casually one evening, the same way a new file appears in a shared drive. Alex said I should try that podcast, she had said, cutting vegetables while music played low. Alex thinks I should apply for promotion. Alex said the view from the 14th floor is incredible at night. Alex. Too present for someone Derek had never met. Natalie glowed when she talked about work now, not about Derek, not about home. He started noticing things others would miss. Her phone faced away whenever it buzzed. Her smiles were shorter at breakfast, her hugs lighter. She laughed more, but never with him. One Sunday morning, Derek asked if she wanted to drive up north, maybe walk the shoreline where they first talked about marriage. She hesitated. Another project deadline. He went alone, sat by the cold water, wind through pines sounding like whispering he could not quite understand. That was the first time he sensed distance not measured in miles. The second time was clearer. Perfume on a coat she never wore to see him, but wore when she left with coworkers. He told himself not to overthink. He was a man who handled crisis with procedure, assess, stabilize, observe. But when love begins turning into data points and behavioral flags, something fundamental is already failing. He did not confront her then. Not yet. He watched. He took mental snapshots like surveillance images, laugh patterns, arrival times, new behaviors, quiet monitoring, the kind special ops teams practice to gather intel before engagement. Maybe that is how betrayal starts. Not with action, but with noticing the absence of what used to be. And on that Friday night when she stood in the mirror adjusting that gold necklace, all those snapshots aligned into one clear picture. The woman leaving the house was not the one he met by the oatmeal aisle. Not anymore. Autumn arrived like it always does in Minnesota. Trees bleeding gold, morning sharp enough to bite the lungs, coffee steaming against frost-kissed windows. Derek loved that season. But this year, fall carried a different kind of chill, one that settled under his skin rather than in the air. He noticed it first in small signals, like abnormal network traffic before a breach. Natalie's phone vibrated more than usual, not calls but messages. Short bursts, rapid replies, a rhythm. She would smile at the screen, type on fast, then lock it as soon as Derek entered the room. No guilt visible, but no openness either. One night, he woke at 1:47 a.m. to the faint glow of light under the bathroom door. Water was not running. Natalie sat on the cold tile, legs pulled in, phone angled toward her chest. She whispered a laugh, soft, private. Derek stood outside, silent. He was not the type to barge in demanding answers. Military training had taught him patience and reconnaissance. In war, you do not fire the first shot unless you understand the battlefield. He returned to bed, eyes open to the ceiling, listening to the sound of her returning quietly minutes later. She thought he was asleep. He did not correct her. Their dinners changed too. They used to talk about mortgage plans, camping trips, whether they should adopt a rescue dog. Now, it was work stories that did not involve him. Inside jokes with coworkers, new office slang, stories where Alex always seemed to be present like a recurring character in a show he never agreed to watch. She laughed more at those stories than she ever did at his dry humor. Derek would sit across from her. Fork paused midair, watching her face brighten like neon signage. He felt like the old house lamp in the corner. Functional, familiar, but never chosen first when someone wants warmth. Sometimes she would say, "You would not get it. It is just office stuff." Like he was a stranger sitting in rented space at her table. The words were casual, but they cut like fiber optic cable under tension, clean, quiet, final. He still kissed her goodnight, still fixed the leaky faucet in the guest bathroom, still warmed her car in the mornings when frost iced the windshield. Love does not disappear instantly. It erodes, like shoreline, grain by grain, wave by wave. On weekends, Natalie insisted she needed team bonding, escape rooms, trivia bars downtown, corporate bowling nights. Derek rarely received an invite. "It is more of a work thing," she said, sliding on hoop earrings, perfume misting through their hallway like smoke after a small fire. One Sunday evening, while Derek grilled steaks on the deck, Natalie stood by the sliding door typing furiously. He watched the reflection in the glass, her smile, wide and unguarded. That smile used to belong to him. Now it lived inside a device encrypted behind a 6-digit code he never asked for. She laughed, soft and secretive, then said, "Sorry, Alex sent a meme, you know how he is." Derek did not know how he was, but he was learning. Later that night, Derek opened their joint bank app to schedule auto payments. A restaurant charge from Minneapolis stared back, not 2 dinners but 1. Thursday. Late. Natalie told him she grabbed fast food on the way home. He stared at the screen for a moment, the numbers static and cold like audited financials. Proof is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is a simple transaction in plain font. But he said nothing. Instead, he watched, observed behavior patterns like a forensic analyst reading server logs. Natalie guarded her phone with new instinct, screen down, always. When she showered, she took it with her. When she slept, it rested under the pillow. Once, she received a message while cooking. The notification preview flashed just long enough for Derek to see 3 hearts. Then the phone flipped face down with practiced reflex. His chest tightened, but his voice stayed even. He was a man collecting data, because emotion blinds strategy, and he refused to attack without certainty. One Tuesday, Natalie left her laptop open while running to get the mail. Derek walked past the table, screen on, chat window open. Slack conversation. A message highlighted. From Alex. Still thinking about last night. No context, just that. A single sentence like a bullet chambering. Natalie returned. Laptop snapped shut. Smile too quick. "What are you looking at?" Derek wiped his hands on his jeans. "Nothing, just passing by." She nodded, relieved too easily. Derek knew then that something had crossed a line. Not physically, maybe, but emotionally. And emotional breaches often cause more long-term damage than physical ones. He poured himself a glass of whiskey that night. Neat, no ice. Sat on the couch in the dark, watching the blue glow of Natalie's phone light her face while she giggled softly, thumbs tapping like Morse code he was never meant to decode. He swallowed the whiskey slowly. It burned, but not as much as knowing he was no longer the source of her light. He did not rage, he did not slam doors, he simply planned. Quiet men are not weak, quiet men prepare. And Derek Lawson was preparing. Friday came again. The kind of late October evening where wind moves through trees like a slow warning, dry leaves scraping asphalt like whispers. Derek arrived home just before sunset. Shoulders sore, hands still smelling faintly of steel dust and engine grease. He expected routine, leftover lasagna warming, Natalie in sweatpants, movie humming in the background. Familiar, safe. But when he opened the door, the house felt staged, like a room prepared for inspection. Candles lit, music low and smooth. And Natalie stood in the bedroom doorway wearing a dress Derek had never seen. Emerald green satin hugging her like a second skin, slit high on the thigh. He blinked. They did not have plans, not together. She twirled once, letting fabric shimmer under warm light. "Do you like it?" she asked, tone casual but eyes searching for approval she did not need from him. It is new, he said, words measured like a risk assessment. Where are you going? Team drinks downtown, she replied, adding mascara with slow precision. Alex booked a table. It is a celebration. We landed the contract. A celebration, a victory toast. The kind where lines blur, where coworkers lean too close in dim bars, where laughter grows louder with every round poured. Derek felt the air tighten in the room, like pressure building inside an unmonitored pipeline, one valve away from rupture. He did not raise his voice. Instead, he sat on the edge of the bed, elbows on knees, calm like a man negotiating with himself. Natalie, he said quietly, I do not feel right about this one. She exhaled, a small breath, annoyed, not angry, dismissive. Derek, it is only a drink. Do not make it weird. She said it like his discomfort was an inconvenience, like the marriage she built with him was background noise behind office camaraderie. Derek studied her reflection in the mirror. The way she checked her phone twice while he spoke. The way her smile never reached her eyes. He could scroll through scenarios like tactical simulations. She goes, she drinks, she laughs with him. A hand on hers. Maybe nothing happens, but what if something does? He spoke one sentence, quiet enough that she could ignore it if she wished, but it would echo in the room long after she left. If you walk out tonight, you will not return to the same marriage. She froze, momentarily. Lipstick paused, then she forced a laugh. You are being dramatic, seriously. She slipped into heels, black, tall, confident. He stood at the doorway watching her fasten the last strap like a soldier, watching a comrade step into unknown terrain, refusing backup. At 9:14 p.m., she left with a breezy kiss to his cheek, a kiss without depth, a formality, tainted with new perfume, darker, muskier. He stood at the window as she climbed into an Uber, taillights disappearing down the quiet suburban street. Derek stayed at the dining table, dinner cold, untouched. He drank water instead of whiskey. Sober mind, steady pulse. He waited, listening to the clock drag minutes like chains. 11 p.m., 11:45, 12:30, 1:10, 1:53. Silence became company. Streetlights flickered. Snow threatened the edges of the night. Derek sat motionless, jaw tight, phone face up on the table. No message. Not even courtesy, not even the illusion of consideration. At 2:07 a.m., headlights crawled across the driveway. Natalie stumbled through the door, keys jingling like broken promises. Her laughter, sloppy, wet, too loud. She leaned against the wall, removing heels clumsily, ankle buckling once. Her hair smelled of whiskey and something else. Cologne, not his. Hey, she slurred, grinning. Why are you still up? She tried to kiss him. He leaned back slightly, tiny movement, but enough for her to notice if she were sober. How was the celebration? He asked. Calm, neutral, deadly calm. She waved her hand dismissively. Fun, just fun. You worry too much. Her purse fell, contents scattering across the floor. Lip gloss, receipts, lighter. A hotel room keycard slid out, black with gold print. Derek's stomach tightened, but his face remained still, the kind of stillness that comes before glass shatters. He quietly bent, picked up the card, placed it back into her purse without comment. She did not notice. She was already halfway to the bedroom, giggling at a message lighting her phone. He did not shout. He did not demand answers. He stood alone in the hallway, listening to her hum off key behind a closed door, and something inside him cracked, not with noise, but like ice splitting under weight. Invisible at first glance, irreversible once seen. No confrontation that night, just a man. calm as winter lake water, realizing that the person he trusted most had already left long before she came home. The morning after the 2 a.m. return was quiet in the way a storm center is quiet, still heavy, deceptive. Natalie slept late, makeup smeared on the pillowcase like evidence. Derek made coffee, sat at the kitchen counter and watched steam rise in slow spirals. He did not shake. He did not pace. Stillness can be more dangerous than rage. When she finally walked in, oversized sweatshirt, hair tangled, she poured herself coffee like nothing was wrong. Kissed his cheek light as dust and said, "Thank you for letting me sleep in." The casualness was almost insulting. He nodded. Neutral. She scrolled through her phone, smiling softly at the screen. That was the moment Derek stopped being a husband and became an investigator. He started with finances, the place where lies leave digital fingerprints. Their credit card statements showed dinners for two, wine bars not in her routine, charges at hotels downtown on nights she said she worked late. One receipt itemized 2 entrees, 2 old fashions, 1 dessert forked for sharing. He printed nothing. He screenshotted nothing. He stored every detail in memory, methodical, like data indexing in a secure server. No need to confront her yet, not with partial intel. Patience grants clarity. 2 weeks later, he attended her company's open house event. Casual, supportive, he shook hands, smiled politely, memorized faces like target mapping, department heads, interns, receptionists, and then, at the drink table, a coworker named Megan made the mistake that completed the puzzle. "So you are Derek," she said, wine glass trembling slightly. "I have heard a lot. Natalie and Alex are inseparable. They are like the office couple." A nervous chuckle followed, the kind someone makes when they realize truth has escaped their mouth. Office couple. Words that should not exist when one of them wears a wedding ring. Derek's voice did not change tone when he replied, "Interesting?" Megan paled, realizing too late what she implied. Damage done. Truth released. That night, Derek waited until Natalie showered, steam fogging the bathroom mirror, scent of vanilla and whiskey rising again. He opened her laptop. No passwords needed. She trusted him that much, or believed he never would. In her email drafts sat messages unsent but saved, digital confessions. One read, "Alex, last night meant something to me. I cannot stop thinking about your hand on mine." Her fingers had typed it. Her heart had felt it. She did not send it, cowardice or guilt. But the intention was there, bold as ink. Scrolling deeper, Derek found shared calendars, lunch meetings marked private, Uber receipts from the same hotel as the keycard on her bedroom floor. Patterns aligned like coordinates on a map. Emotionally, they were already somewhere he could not follow. Physically, the evidence pointed that direction fast. He closed the laptop quietly, as if shutting a casket. From that moment forward, every breath he took was controlled, every word measured. Derek was no longer collecting data. He was planning an operation. Revenge not fueled by rage, but precision. Surgical, strategic, devastating. He contacted a friend in compliance who understood corporate structure. Asked hypothetically about workplace relationships, about power dynamics, about internal policy violations. His friend laughed first, until Derek's silence told him this was real. The friend explained documentation protocols, HR vulnerabilities, reputation impact. Derek listened like a man learning where to place explosives for maximum structural collapse. He kept acting normal. Dinners made, trash taken out, goodnight kiss returned without warmth. Natalie believed she was safe inside his silence. She never noticed his eyes were colder now, like winter lakes deep enough to swallow secrets. One night, she left her phone unlocked on the counter while changing laundry. A message popped up. Alex. Same room tomorrow? I booked it already. Room. Booked. Tomorrow. The emotional affair had crossed the final threshold. Physical. Confirmed. Derek did not pick up the phone. He did not scroll. He simply looked at the message until the screen dimmed to black. Reflection staring back, not a broken man, but one sharpening. He began gathering evidence quietly, bank statements forwarded to a private file, photos of receipts taken discreetly, timestamps logged like military intel. Then he wrote an email, short, detached, addressed to HR, CC'd legal department, attached documented proof. No accusations, just facts. Facts sting more when no emotion accompanies them. His finger hovered for 1 second. Then he pressed send. A single click, like pulling a trigger. Natalie and Alex had no idea their foundation was already cracking beneath them. They were laughing in hotel bars, thinking secrecy was a shield. But Derek Lawson was done being the one left in the dark, and the storm he built was coming. Cold, controlled, unstoppable. The email detonated quietly, no explosion, no immediate screams, just the silent ripple of consequence beginning its crawl through corporate channels. Derek did not wait for impact. At sunrise the next morning, he slipped on his jacket, drove to the county courthouse, and filed for legal separation. No warning, no discussion, no dramatic confrontation in the kitchen. The clerk stamped the papers, the sound sharp as a gunshot in an empty room. When he returned home, Natalie was eating yogurt at the counter, hair damp from her shower, scrolling TikTok like any other morning. Derek placed a single envelope in front of her. Divorce attorney contact packet, already filled with his section completed. She stared at it. Confusion first, then dawning, slow and horrifying. Derek, what is this? He poured himself coffee, calm. Separation papers. His voice did not waver. She blinked rapidly, breathing shallow. Separation? Why? Where is this coming from? He looked at her with eyes she no longer recognized, composed, distant, done. You walked out that night, he said softly. I told you things would not be the same. Her face drained of color, like ink spilling from a blueprint. She started to speak, excuses, rehearsed probably, but her phone buzzed, interrupting the moment. She glanced down. HR, subject line. Urgent, compliance review meeting required. Her hand trembled. Derek did not smile. He simply sipped coffee. From there, everything unraveled like fiber optic cable stripped to bare glass. At the office, whispers started before Natalie reached her desk. Screens dimmed when she walked by. Slack channels went silent when her name appeared. People avoided eye contact. In the break room, coffee spoons paused mid-stir. Alex Miller arrived later, face stiff, eyes shadowed. A security badge hang request notice awaited him. HR called him in first. 34 minutes later, he exited. No badge, cardboard box in arms, the universal symbol of corporate exile. Someone filmed from behind a desk, phone angled discreetly. Videos spread. Natalie was next. Her meeting lasted longer, 1 hour, 21 minutes, enough for her mascara to run when she came out. Employees pretended to scroll emails, but everyone watched. Office rumors multiplied like unsecured data breaches. Emotional affair, hotel receipts, misuse of company funds for team dinners. Internal investigation active, compliance notified, legal reviewing, inappropriate conduct. That phrase stains reputations permanently, especially in corporate environments hungry for liability control. Derek received the forwarded HR acknowledgement hours later, anonymous submission accepted. Natalie called him 12 times. He did not answer. He sat on the deck instead, watching geese cut across a cold gray sky. Her voice messages came through fractured, first defensive, then pleading, then angry, then sobbing. He listened to none of them. When she finally came home, eyes swollen, she dropped her purse and collapsed to her knees in the hallway. "Derek, please," she begged. "We can fix this. It did not mean—" He held up a hand. Silence. "I know exactly what it meant." She crawled toward him, like distance itself hurt. "It was only feelings at first. I was lonely. You were distant, and then we kissed, and it got complicated. You slept with him. Not a question. A fact delivered like an invoice due." She covered her face with shaking palms. "I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. Please, Derek, do not do this to us." He inhaled, slow. "I did not destroy us, Natalie. You did." She reached for his hand. He stepped back. That movement broke her more than yelling ever could. Word of the affair leaked beyond the office. LinkedIn chatter, group chats, spouses of employees whispering at dinner tables. Natalie became a cautionary tale, not a wife to admire. Alex disappeared from Minneapolis tech circles like a corrupted file wiped clean. His marriage, too, fractured under exposure. Derek watched from a distance, expression unreadable. Not satisfaction, not glee, just completion, like the final brick laid on a wall. His revenge had not been loud, it had been methodical and perfectly executed. Natalie slept in the guest room that night, sobbing quietly into a pillow. Derek stared at the ceiling, eyes dry, heart no longer breaking, just empty, like a house after furniture is removed. The collapse was done. Now came what follows ruins. The house felt different in the weeks that followed. Quieter, even when Natalie cried. Derek moved with the controlled precision of someone handling hazardous material, careful not to spill emotion anywhere it did not belong. He slept on the opposite side of the bed now, sometimes on the couch, sometimes not home at all. He left early, returned late. Routine replaced affection like a firewall replacing trust. Natalie deteriorated slowly. Her hair lost its shine. Her smile, when it appeared, trembled at the edges. She burned dinners accidentally, forgot appointments, paced rooms like a ghost still learning she was dead. The investigation dragged on, each email colder than the last. Alex's name vanished from employee listings entirely. Meanwhile, Natalie's inbox filled with phrases like pending decision, reputational risk, policy breach. Shame weighs heavier than guilt. One night, rain hammered the roof in sheets, water running down windows like veins. Natalie stood in the doorway to the living room, hands twisting the hem of her sweater. Derek was reading, finance journal open, pen tapping occasionally. He did not look up when she spoke. "Derek," she whispered, voice cracking, "can we talk?" He turned a page calmly. "You can talk. I will listen." He did not put the book down. That alone made her knees shake. She crossed the room slowly, as if approaching a sleeping animal. "I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. I regret it every day. I am begging you. Please, please give me another chance." Her voice splintered on the word please. She lowered herself to the floor beside his chair, head resting on his knee the way she once did after long days, a desperate mimicry of old comfort. He felt her tears seep warm through denim. He did not touch her. "It was not love," she choked. "It was stupid. He made me feel seen, and I confused it with something real. I hate myself for it. You have every right to be angry, but do not throw us away over one mistake." "One mistake?" Derek finally closed the journal, marking his place with surgical neatness. His voice was not raised. It did not need to be. "One mistake is a forgotten anniversary. One mistake is losing keys. You built a relationship behind my back. You shared the best parts of yourself with another man. That is not a mistake, Natalie. That is a decision." She flinched like it was a strike. He continued, tone steady as a clean-cut wire. "And when I told you not to go that night, you walked out anyway." Lightning cracked outside. The room flashed white for a moment. Natalie sobbed harder. "I thought you were being possessive. I thought you did not understand how important the project was. I thought Alex just cared about my work." "He cared about you," Derek corrected. "Enough to book hotel rooms. Enough to send hearts at 1 a.m. She buried her face in her hands, shame pouring out loud, wet, uncontained. Derek stood, moved past her, and poured himself a glass of water. He returned to the chair but did not sit. Instead, he faced her directly for the first time in weeks. "Natalie, I need you to understand something." His voice was low, even, deadly calm. "Forgiveness and reconciliation are not the same. I can forgive you someday, but I do not trust you, and without trust, there is no marriage left to save." She crawled toward him, literally, fingers grabbing the cuff of his jeans like a child begging a parent not to leave. "I will do anything," she whispered. "Therapy, burn my phone, quit my job. I will cut ties with him forever. Just tell me what you need." He looked down at her, not with hatred, but with a cold finality. "I need peace, Natalie, and peace does not live here anymore." Her breath broke. She knew. The separation papers were not a threat. They were a countdown. The next day, he met Alex face to face for the first and last time. In the office parking lot, where winter wind cut through coats like accusation, Alex approached cautiously. "Derek, I am sorry," he offered, voice small. "No," Derek replied, calm as iced-over water. "You are sorry you got caught." Alex swallowed hard. No one raised a fist, no shouting, only silence. Thicker, heavier, more punishing than violence. Derek stepped aside, leaving Alex standing alone in falling snow. A man stripped of title, reputation, illusions of victory. When Derek drove home, Natalie sat at the kitchen table, a mug clutched between trembling hands. Hope flickered in her eyes, faint, naive. He walked past her without a word. Because sometimes silence is the loudest goodbye. Winter faded into spring the way grief fades into acceptance, slowly, then all at once. Snow melted off rooftops, streets cleared, and one early April morning, Derek loaded the last box into the back of his truck. The house, once warm with shared memories, now felt like an empty server, wiped clean, no data left worth salvaging. Natalie stood on the porch in a gray sweater, hair messy, face thinner than months prior. She watched him pack without fighting this time. Exhaustion had replaced denial. "Do you have to go today?" she asked, voice barely audible above the wind. He locked the truck bed. "Yes." No bitterness, no venom, just finality, the kind that comes when a man stops bleeding. She stepped closer, hopeful tears clinging beneath her lashes. "If I try harder, if we start over, maybe we could—" Derek shook his head gently. "The version of us you want back is gone. You burned it." Not cruel, a statement of fact. She swallowed, chest rising with a shaky breath. But she did not argue. She knew this was the end. Not loud, not chaotic, just a door closing quietly. Sometimes that hurts more. His new apartment overlooked the Mississippi River, smaller, simpler, uncluttered. He assembled furniture piece by piece, hands steady, radio playing low blues. He hung no photos from the old life. Fresh walls deserved fresh history. He built routine again. Gym before work, protein shakes, new colleagues at the job site, Weekends spent fishing, hiking, rediscovering himself. The silence in the apartment was not cold anymore. It was peaceful, controlled. A firewall rebuilt after breach. He started therapy, not to fix what broke, but to learn how to live after it. He joined a veteran cycling group, rode trails at sunrise, breath turning white against pink daylight. He learned to cook real meals again instead of eating out of habit. He slept deeply for the first time in years. Healing did not roar. It whispered. 4 months later, he met Emily, a friend of a friend at a barbecue by the lakeshore. She worked in accounting, laughed with her whole face, asked questions instead of checking her phone every 5 minutes. Derek noticed that. He noticed everything now. Red flags, green flags, quiet details. They talked until stars replaced sunlight. About books, childhood, credit interest rates oddly enough. No spark forced, no desperation. Just two adults sharing space comfortably. He was not in love yet, but he was open to the possibility. That alone was progress. One Saturday in late July, Derek and Emily walked into a downtown cafe, hands not yet linked, but comfortably close. Sunlight warmed the glass windows, espresso scent thick in the air. The world felt light, breathable. Derek ordered black coffee. Emily ordered caramel latte with extra foam, teased him about being a man who likes things bitter and straightforward. He smiled, a real one. It surprised him how natural it felt. Then Natalie walked in. She froze at the door, clutching her wallet like a lifeline. Her eyes ran over him, haircut shorter, posture stronger, eyes brighter. Not hollow, not wounded. He looked free. Their gaze met. Natalie stepped closer, voice softer than he remembered. "Derek, you look good." He nodded once, polite, detached. "Thank you." Emily noticed tension but stayed respectfully silent. Natalie's eyes flicked to Emily, then back to Derek. Pain flickered, sharp, brief, like a cut too small to bandage but deep enough to sting. "Are you happy?" she asked, voice breaking on the final word. He held her gaze calmly. "Yes, I am. No malice, no longing, just truth." She nodded slowly, forcing a smile that crumbled at the edges. "I am glad," she whispered, though her eyes said otherwise. "Really." But Derek knew. She was standing in front of the life she once had, now unreachable. She was the ghost, not him. A memory in a hallway he no longer walked. They parted without drama. No final plea, no dramatic scene. Just a quiet goodbye in a coffee shop where life moved forward without her. Outside, Emily slipped her hand into his, gentle, unassuming. Derek let it happen, warmth flooding his chest. Not the fire of passion, the warmth of safety. As they crossed the street into the bright afternoon, Derek glanced back once. Natalie still stood inside, small under the cafe lights, staring at the door that closed behind him long ago. He turned away, not in anger, but in peace. He had chosen himself. And sometimes the cleanest revenge is simply living well. In the end, Derek's journey was not about revenge. It was about reclaiming self-worth. Sometimes healing means letting go of what once felt safe and building a new life from the quiet foundation of self-respect. Natalie learned that love cannot survive without loyalty, and Derek learned that peace is better than winning an argument. His story reminds us that strength is not always loud. Sometimes it is the choice to walk away, rebuild, and believe life can be better on the other side. If you have ever experienced betrayal or heartbreak, know that you are not alone. There is a way forward, even if it begins with a single painful step.